constitutional law expert right here, I would say next to me, based on the position. And then we have Viron Ochola, Economic Inclusion and Research Officer right at the center. And last but not least, Professor Gitile Naituli, Governance and Policy Expert and a household name on this set. Gentlemen, thank you so much for creating time. Prof, we begin with you. Based on what I have just highlighted, do you suppose that Kenyans are hitting the current government so hard that perhaps they do not acknowledge and appreciate what has been done so far? Because out of a report that we are going to walk through, the government feels like its scorecard is top-notch. They highlight various areas that they say they have managed to address. Would you say that we are a bit too hard on the current government? Professor, we come to you. That is Professor Sihanya.
Well, the assessment of our evaluation of a presidential performance, especially at year three or the third year, should be based on one, what are the constitutional powers, functions, and authority of the president?
Right.
Number two, what were the promises that were made by that president as a candidate? And number three, what are some of the objective parameters in terms of the political economy that has evolved since the election, since assuming office? Those are some of the parameters that need to be considered when assessing the president. And in which case we should also go back and say that we are assessing President William Ruto at 3. How does he perform using those parameters vis-a-vis, say, Jomo Kenyatta 1, 1963 to 1978. Moi, Daniel Arap Moi as the second president, 78 to 2002. Mwai Kibaki, 2002, December to 2013. Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta 2, 2013 to 2022. So you use those parameters, constitutional powers, functions at that time, they assume office. Then you assess in terms of their commitments and promises and the objective political economy realities that emerged since then. If we use those, well, then we are in good shape. And then we check the key ones. Economic performance in terms of the economy, issues such as agriculture, issues of inflation or cost of living and related parameters. Then we go to the socio-cultural parameters, identity politics, inclusivity in government, and the political questions. All those which will include...
And Prof, which we'll be looking at, perhaps yes or no, do you suppose that Kenyans are hitting the government too hard?
I think yes and no.
Yes and no?
Hitting too, no, not hitting too hard, partly because the Constitution of Kenya 2010 promised a lot. And also, as a candidate, Kenya Kwanza promised a lot.
Yes.
So the expectations have been very high by the in Kenya since especially 2002 and also since 2010. 2002 because it was yote yawezekana. 2010, it was because of the constitution. So the expectations have been very high. But they would be hitting too hard partly because, one, some may be hitting a bit too hard partly because, one, the objective conditions in Kenya and in the world, there are certain changes which have occurred in terms of the economy. In terms of the cost of living, in terms of the prices of certain inputs into our productive system, etc., etc. And also, maybe they will be hitting too hard partly because William Ruto comes into government in a coalition, in an alliance, in a coalition with his deputy. And from almost the word go, you have these discordant couple in the presidency, which basically then disrupts probably what they could do. And with one part of that government saying that it's a shareholder government, you are either in or out as part, and yet you are part of Kenya. That also was quite disruptive, which then would lead to the to subsequent changes in government.
And I hope that we all understand it's critical that we get into this conversation head on, because it will be the determinant factor as to whether the president is lucky enough to secure a second term. Economy is at the heart of, every conversation that would revolve around the performance of the government. And therefore, you, Viron, sits at the heart of the questions of economy. If we're going to look or narrow down to that specific, do you think the government has done well?
Again, it is the question of yes and no.
Okay.
And you look at it in terms of when they came in, we were at a very bad place in terms of public debt repayments, and we had Eurobond at that time. And we knew at that time that most likely the country will default. But they found a way to keep the country going. So on that one, we can give them a very high percentage. But then again, on the question of inflation again, when they came in, inflation was very high. They have managed to reduce it. Okay. But when we talk about inflation, it has only reduced on paper or on books. But when you go to the community level, you interact with those women at the market, it is a different scenario. So that's why you see many people are still saying that the cost of living is still high. But when you listen to the government side, they keep on saying that they have reduced inflation.
You are a researcher. Could you please enlighten us on why there are these discrepancies? I mean, why are we talking about such dissonance? If at all the economy, and the government is confident that the economy is doing well, if at all on paper it shows that, well, inflation has gone down, and all the tenets that we speak about, a stable or an unstable economy. I mean, if the government has the confidence that perhaps this is where we stand, if the IMF, looks at Kenya and they say that perhaps they're doing well economically, what is this dissonance about it not being felt at the household level, which is the most critical part of an economy?
The dissonance comes in terms of the priority. We have a government that are feeling the heat of public debt in terms of repayment.
Okay.
So the focus is to repay debt. On this side, we also have an economy that need to be funded in terms of you support small businesses to grow, to create businesses, and to also allow people to, in terms of the flow and production of food.
Okay.
So when this challenge comes in terms of now, which one do you prioritize? Do you prioritize public debt, or do you prioritize ensuring that there is flow of money within the economy? Okay. Now, when the public debt keeps on growing, it again builds the pressure. So the government is now trying to see we cannot default, we have to keep on repaying debt. This is where now you see they will say that they have tried to maintain, stabilize the economy. But on this side again, the challenge of corruption again builds up, make it difficult for the people to even access food.
We'll be coming back to that. Prof, briefly, I'll give you 2 minutes and then we'll take some stories and then come back to you. And these stories will be based on the conversation that we're having this evening. That development speaks for itself. That is what they would say. That if the economy is doing well, certainly it's going to be felt. There's going to be that ripple effect. But this is basically what a majority of Kenyans are saying, that they do not seem to feel this. They do not seem to see this development. What would you make of 3 years of the Kenya Kwanza government?
I think I will agree more likely with what you just said, the majority of Kenyans. Because there were expectations, they expected certain things to happen when the new government came.
Yeah.
Given that the president is the most effective candidate we have ever had for president, he was clear on what he's going to do when he came in. So I would classify these 3 years as wasted 3 years.
All right.
Because you just have to look at the economy. And especially the debt. This friend of mine is shocking me, actually. William Ruto has borrowed 3.2 trillion in 3 years. When Kibaki came into a dilapidated country. No roads was possible in this country. You to take me 12 hours from Nakuru to where I was born. Coming to Nairobi was a nightmare. If you come with your car, when you come, you have to take it to the garage. Now, Kibaki was able to do all that with the 630 billion. And hand over to Uhuru Kenyatta fantastic infrastructure, and are now standing in debt of 1.89 trillion, accumulated all the way from independence. You understand that? Mm-hmm. So now, when you try to see what Ruto and Uhuru have done, because I think you need to combine the two really. Personally, I've never believed that you having a separate administration. This is just in Jubilee on steroids. It's in Jubilee on a higher level because the corruption in Uhuru Kenyatta was unbetter controlled. Okay. It was being done by a few people. This is a laissez-faire. Everybody is doing it. That's why the Auditor General will tell you that there is ghost schools respecting competition in the Rift Valley.
Prof, I'll come back to you. You know, you talk about Kenyatta 1, Kenyatta 2, Moi and Mwai. If you've listened to the president recently, he says that perhaps he has performed better than all the other presidents that we've had. He's even gone ahead to say that even if Raila Odinga were to be president today, he would have done the same thing that he's doing today. And that's a president that is confident that he has done better. If we're going to look at this tenet of, you know, who was there before.
I think you need to let me finish.
I mean, before we get to listen to the scorecard.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I think you need to let me finish.
Right. Make it brief.
Yeah, very brief, I guess. I mean, we expected is in the under plan for the economy.
Yes.
Okay? Over 108 companies have left Kenya since he became president. They are leaving because of irrational taxation. Mm-hmm. Taxation that is not rational. So when you look at the policy, because this is where you look at the president's performance, it's the policies. Okay. The health policy delivering. Mm-hmm. The housing policy delivering. The education policies delivering. So when you look around, is complaint over every single policy the administration has implemented. Okay. And so it would be better, I don't know, the 2 years left is not much because they have only 1 year. Right. And in my experience is the government that delivers to a country, he must deliver in the first year. When the government fails to deliver in the first year, it doesn't deliver hata ukipatia miaka 10. It doesn't.
All right, Prof, we come back to you shortly. Amongst the other stories that we carry this evening are two on, of course, what it is that the Kenya Kwanza government has done. And another one, we're actually getting into the nitty-gritty details of the scorecard.